야, 너 그거 들이키지 마.
안 보면 되잖아.
Face genius, face straight out of a webtoon. One of the hottest Korean actors of his generation. These are the phrases people always throw around when talking about Cha Eun-woo. But when it comes to his acting, that's where the compliments start to get a little quieter. After more than 10 years in the K-drama scene, the real question is, has Cha Eun-woo finally grown as an actor? Born on March 30th, 1997, this 28-year-old star has stayed in the headlines more than most actors of his generation, and not just for surface-level reasons. First of all, he's not just an actor, he's an idol actor, which means he's been juggling music, drama shoots, and packed fan schedules since his rookie years. As a member of the successful K-pop group Astro, Cha Eun-woo has been performing on massive stages, building a global fan base, and dropping hit albums while filming dramas left and right. Not many can say they've balanced both careers at once and made it look that effortless. Second, that face. Let's not even pretend we're not here for it. Cha Eun-woo isn't just good-looking, he's the poster boy for the term unrealistically handsome. People call him a face genius for a reason. He's the kind of guy who looks like he was photoshopped by the universe itself. His face is the kind of flawless that makes you question your own reflection. Sharp jawline, perfectly arched brows, soft gaze, and skin that looks like it's permanently under a beauty filter. Even non-fans, casual viewers, and people who have never watched a K-drama know who he is. Because once you see his face, you don't forget it. He is, without exaggeration, one of the most naturally photogenic celebrities in the entire Korean entertainment industry. And that brings us to the third, and most talked about, headline that seems to follow Cha Eun-woo, his acting. For years, this part of his career has faced the most criticism and scrutiny. Idol actors have long been dismissed in the K-drama world as lacking substance, accused of using their popularity to land roles they haven't earned. They're often the ones in the cast that fans and critics are quickest to side-eye. But as more idol actors, like Yoona, Lee Jun-ho, Suzy, and Yuk Sung-jae, began proving themselves with award-winning performances, some K-drama viewers started opening their minds to the possibility that idols could actually act. And some did rise above the criticism to prove everyone wrong. Unfortunately, for a long time, Cha Eun-woo wasn't considered one of them. But when he finally stepped into his first male lead role, the spotlight and the criticism got a lot more intense. That moment came with My Idea's Gangnam Beauty, where Cha Eun-woo played Do Kyung-seok, a cold, brutally honest, and emotionally distant college student who's as strikingly handsome as he is socially detached. Now, from a casting standpoint, this looked like a perfect fit. The role quite literally called for someone impossibly good-looking and mysterious. Visuals? Check. Campus heartthrob energy? Double check. But the character wasn't just about looking good in a school uniform. Kyung-seok carried emotional baggage. He had a strained relationship with his parents, unresolved trauma, and a subtle, slow-burning affection for the female lead that needed to feel real, not robotic. And that's where opinions started to split. Some viewers appreciated the way Eun-woo portrayed Kyung-seok's aloofness with quiet intensity. His stoic expressions and understated delivery matched the character's emotionally repressed personality. But to others, it came off as stiff. They argued that his performance lacked emotional depth, and that his limited expressions blurred the line between playing a reserved character and simply giving a flat performance. There were moments, especially in emotionally charged scenes, where the camera lingered, waiting for something more. And it didn't always arrive. One viewer even quipped that Eun-woo seemed to have only one facial expression throughout the entire drama. A handsome one, sure, but not exactly enough to sell a complex romance. That lack of emotional variation didn't help when it came to building believable chemistry with the female lead. To this day, whenever people bring up Cha Eun-woo's acting journey, My Idea's Gangnam Beauty is often the exhibit. I used to argue that he still has a long way to go. Now, in rookie historian Gu Hae-ryung, Eun-woo took a risk by stepping away from the cold, aloof campus heartthrob archetype. He played Prince Yi-rim, a sheltered, idealistic royal who secretly writes romance novels and slowly begins to challenge the norms of his strict Confucian society. On paper, it was a chance for him to show more range. His character was playful, naive, emotional, and even a little awkward. And to his credit, this is where audiences started to notice something: growth. His performance still wasn't universally praised, but it marked a shift. For the first time, viewers saw glimpses of vulnerability and charm that didn't feel forced. There were more subtle expressions, more softness, and more effort to lean into the emotional beats of the story. He brought a certain innocence to the role that fit the prince's sheltered upbringing, and his chemistry with co-star Shin Se-kyung felt more natural and heartfelt. Even Eun-woo himself admitted that he had regrets about not giving his best performance in the drama, but he also promised that he'd learned a lot from the experience and was determined to improve. And guess what? He did. In True Beauty, and this is where things really started to change. Yes, technically, he was back to playing a very familiar character, Lee Soo-ho, a rich, cold, emotionally closed-off high schooler with a tragic past. Sound familiar? It was My ID is Gangnam Beauty all over again, but with one major difference. This time, he brought more heart to the role. In True Beauty, Eun-woo displayed noticeably improved emotional nuance. Soo-ho wasn't just stoic, he was quietly wounded, and Eun-woo actually showed that. His portrayal carried more weight in the sad scenes, more awkward charm in the lighter moments, and most importantly, more chemistry with his co-stars. You could see the evolution in how he tackled emotional breakdowns, confrontations, and romantic beats. He wasn't just standing there looking beautiful anymore, he was trying to act. Sure, he still had room to grow, but there was finally a sense of sincerity in his performance. He wasn't hiding behind his visuals, he was slowly, steadily finding his rhythm as an actor. After True Beauty, the industry and fans were watching. The question wasn't just if Cha Eun-woo would improve anymore, but when he would finally break free from the pretty boy roles and truly prove he could act. Now, this is where his role in Island comes into place. Island is a fantasy action series filled with demons, dark lore, and heavy themes. This wasn't your usual school romance. Eun-woo played the role of Father Johan, a handsome demon-hunting priest. But unlike his previous roles, this one gave him the opportunity to physically and emotionally stretch as an actor. In Island, we saw him do more than pout and smolder. There were action scenes, dramatic sequences, and moments of real intensity. He didn't just look cool in a priest's robe, he sold it. There was a noticeable shift in his body language, his line delivery, and his emotional timing. He was finally pushing himself. Viewers were pleasantly surprised by his grounded performance, especially in the heavier scenes involving inner conflict and trauma. And while the series didn't become a mainstream mega hit, critics and longtime K-drama watchers began noting, this might be the most convincing Cha Eun-woo we've seen yet. It was gritty, darker, and definitely a few shades deeper than anything he'd done before. For once, people weren't just complimenting his looks, they were talking about his screen presence. Then came A Good Day to Be a Dog, which leaned back into the romance comedy territory, but with a twist. Playing Jin Seo-won, a man who has a deep fear of dogs, Eun-woo returned to familiar rom-com waters. But this time, he brought with him the lessons he'd learned from his previous roles. His performance here felt more relaxed, more confident. His comedic timing had improved, and he showed a softer, more human side to the cold guy with trauma trope he's often cast in. Was it groundbreaking? Not quite, but it was solid. It proved he had found more control over his acting, how to balance humor, emotion, and pacing without slipping into stiffness. Fans appreciated how his character felt more real, not just someone drawn straight from a webtoon. Let's dive into Cha Eun-woo's latest projects, where he's really shown the growth everyone's been waiting for, Decibel and Wonderful World. In Decibel, Eun-woo had a minor role, but he still made a major impact. Even though his role was small, it marked a significant moment in his career. The praise was almost unanimous. Director, co-stars like Kim Rae-won, Lee Jong-suk, and Park Byung-eun, and even fans and critics couldn't help but notice how much he'd grown. It was the first time people stopped just admiring his looks and started seeing the actor behind them. As for Wonderful World, that's when things really clicked. In this drama, he plays Kwon Seon-yul, a mysterious, emotionally complex character with a dark past that ties into the female lead's journey of revenge and healing. Right from the start, it's clear, this is a totally different Cha Eun-woo than what we saw in Gangnam Beauty. Gone are the days of relying just on his looks or a flat, distant performance. In Wonderful World, his acting feels deep. He's got restraint when needed, vulnerability when it counts, and he holds his own next to seasoned pros like Kim Nam-joo, and let's be real, that's no easy feat. The show's heavy, dealing with some pretty intense themes, but Eun-woo doesn't shy away. In fact, he rises to the challenge. Wonderful World has already racked up an impressive 11.4% nationwide rating, according to Nielsen Korea, which says a lot about how people are connecting with the show and with him. What's even more satisfying is how many are now calling this role one of the most impressive growths we've seen in the industry. Considering all the early hate and doubt he received, this is a pretty big moment. His maturity as an actor is shining through, proving that he's not just a pretty face, but someone who's been learning and getting better with every role. So, has Cha Eun-woo finally grown as an actor? Maybe he's not all the way there yet, but one thing's for sure, he's no longer just the face genius. Behind the webtoon-worthy visuals is someone who's clearly putting in the work, leveling up, and slowly but surely becoming a real force in K-drama land. And now that we've covered Eun-woo's journey, here's the real question. Did he land a spot on our list of the 30 hottest Korean actors? Click the video and find out.